As the summer rapidly approaches and I start to get ready to work another season at Orchard Beach, I began to think, what is it about this place that makes me want to keep coming back to it? Is it because I'm able to work out in the summer sun and run, lift weights, and swim to my heart's content? Yes. Is it because of the opportunity to always meet new people and have summer literally always come to me? Also yes. However, the biggest reason why I keep coming back to work at Orchard Beach is because of how captivating the area is to my imagination. I mean, sitting in that lifeguard chair and watching the boats sail by always gets me thinking what life would be like on the open sea. And walking up the stairs to the pavilion and seeing those towering bathhouses facing the sea always makes me think like I just wandered across a lost ancient civilization. Anyway, safe to say that Orchard Beach has a lot of rich history. From its creation as a man-made beach led by Robert Moses to the Native Americans who used to fish, barter, and trade along its shores, Orchard Beach has always had a good story to tell. Spanning a mile long along the Long Island Sound and part of Pelham Bay Park, Orchard Beach is a man-made crescent-shaped beach that used to have orchards growing behind it, hence why they call it Orchard Beach. Before efforts to landfill the area, Orchard Beach was actually split among a series of islands, which were Rodman's Neck, Hunter Island, and Twin Islands. And hundreds of years before city planners and architects shaped the beach into what it is today, Native Americans actually used to fish, barter, and trade along the shores. Referred to as the Sonoy, which was just a general catch-all term for Lenape Native Americans who lived along the Long Island Sound. These people have been living on these islands and surrounding shores for almost 1,000 years, possibly even more. And in that time, they hunted, gathered, farmed, and fished, and would even collect small beads and shells to create these beautiful embroidered belts called wampum. These belts were so valuable that when European settlers arrived to trade with the Sonoy, the Dutch and English actually used beads and shells almost as a form of currency with them. Anyway, once European settlers arrived in the 17th century, Native Americans like the Sonoy and European settlers actually got along for a while, trading steel tools and other commodities for beaver furs and other animal pelts. However, like with other European and Native American relationships in the region, the cooperative relationship between the Sonoy and Dutch and English settlers soon soured once the European settlers started encroaching more and more on the Sonoy's lands. In the 1640s, this sour relationship eventually led to all-out conflict between the Sonoy and Dutch and English settlers. And this conflict only ended in 1654 when the Sonoy, much to their disadvantage after heavy losses in the conflict, agreed to sell their land in a peace treaty to Englishman Thomas Pell. Under this agreement, the Sonoy agreed to sell over 50,000 acres of their land, including land that would later become Orchard Beach, to Thomas Pell in exchange for also being able to yearly renegotiate the boundaries of their agreement. However, due to hostilities in the area, the Sonoy eventually fled the Bronx entirely, and Thomas Pell and his descendants became the new lords of what would become Pelham Bay and Pelham Bay Park, New Rochelle, Eastchester, Larchmont, and Mamaroneck. As time went on, the Pell family sold off more of their lands to other estates, and these lands continued to change hands until in 1888. Much to the behest of city officials who wanted to make the city a little greener, the city of New York purchased the lands of what would become Pelham Bay Park. In the early 20th century, the city started leasing lands to campers to make campsites on what is today the Hunter Island section of Orchard Beach. On Hunter Island, campers erected tents and bungalows that New Yorkers flocked to during the summer season. These campsites were so popular that due to overcrowding, in 1905, the city opened up another campsite on what is today the Rodman section of Orchard Beach. And since a lot of campers love to camp along the shores of these islands, a little summer colony began to blossom into the Orchard Beach that we know today. However, before Robert Moses came along, Orchard Beach back then was just a small beach that took up the northeastern section of Rodman's Neck. Regardless of its size, by the summer of 1912, Orchard Beach was bustling with up to 2,000 visitors on the weekdays and up to 5,000 visitors on the weekends. Visitors back then even got to enjoy certain amenities such as wooden locker rooms and bathhouses. And they passed those summer days either taking a dip in the water or going fishing or boating. However, because of overcrowding caused by urbanization in the 1920s, the facilities at Orchard Beach started to fall apart due to neglect and disrepair. Anyway, it wasn't until President Roosevelt, Mayor LaGuardia, and Robert Moses, especially Robert Moses, came into power that Orchard Beach was able to receive the facelift that it so rightly deserved. When Fiorello LaGuardia was elected mayor of New York City in 1933, he appointed a man named Robert Moses to be his new city parks commissioner. Known for his expert manager skills and the work on the creation of Jones Beach, Robert Moses would prove to be an effective city planner for all the city parks, tunnels, roads, and bridges all across the 5 boroughs. Anyway, with generous donations from President Roosevelt's Public Works Administration, the WPA, Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia and Robert Moses had everything they needed to reshape New York City's landscape. Once in office, Robert Moses immediately started drafting plans on how to create and improve parks all across the city. Because of his elevated position as the Parks Commissioner, which was a title he only accepted as long as he was given total control over all the city's parks and parkways, along with being given control of the building of the Tri-Borough Bridge and the creation of another parkway agency, Robert Moses had the luxury to build whatever he wanted and decide whoever he wanted to build it. Anyway, for Orchard Beach, Robert Moses chose Amar Embury II and Gilmore D. Clark, respectively the Division of Design's consulting architect and landscape architect, to lead in the beach's design. So when Robert Moses set out to redesign Orchard Beach, he wanted to create a gigantic recreational area with a mile-long beach, a wide promenade, a large bathhouse including viewing terraces and concessions, picnic groves, game areas, playgrounds, and a parking field for several thousand cars. And to accomplish all this, Robert Moses tasked his engineers to reshape the very land by filling in Leroy Bay to make room for everything he wanted. And the crazy part was that they did. However, before any work could be done, Robert Moses still had to evict the campers who were occupying the campsites in the surrounding area. And after a brief legal battle, by mid-1934, Robert Moses won the right to evict the campers and demolish the campsites. Furthermore, this pattern of uprooting established communities, whether for good or bad, to demolish old structures and create new ones, would continue to be a trademark in Robert Moses' career. However, when it came to evicting the campers at Orchard Beach, I think it was ultimately for the best because the campsites and beach were getting too small to meet the needs of the new influx of people. I think that maybe Robert Moses saw that since the Bronx was growing as a whole, Orchard Beach also had to grow along with its people. Also, since the campers at Orchard Beach didn't actually live at Orchard Beach, the decision to evict them wasn't so bad. However, what was bad was how years later in his career, Robert Moses would end up evicting thousands of residents in the South Bronx from their homes to create the Cross Bronx Expressway, and by tearing down an entire community and displacing the residents, he ended up contributing to the urban blight that plagued that area for decades after. I don't know. I just think it's important to show that even though Robert Moses was a great man, it's also important to show that he wasn't exactly a good man either. However, when he was planning new projects and creating lots of jobs in the 1930s, he was actually doing a lot of good in this time. Anyway, with the final design approved, construction began at Orchard Beach in 1935 with the goal to have parts of the bathhouse and beach open to the public by the summer of 1936. However, early in construction, efforts to fill in Leroy Bay were met with challenges when the city, in an effort to try to save money, only approved the use of garbage instead of sand to be used as landfill. This proved to be a disastrous design choice because since the seawalls at Orchard Beach weren't yet fully constructed, rising tides just ended up carrying the garbage away and polluted both Pelham Bay and the Long Island Sound for miles around. And after demanding the Department of Sanitation clean up the mess and that the city should give him the proper funding, Robert Moses ended up winning the funds to have barges of sand, which he originally intended to use, be shipped out from Jamaica Bay and Sandy Hook to fill in Leroy Bay. And honestly, how they accomplished this is just a minor marvel. By using hydraulic pumps to deposit up to 4,000 cubic yards of sand a day, workers were able to fill in all of Leroy Bay and Joey Hunter's Island and Robin's Neck to form one landmass that totaled 115 acres of new dry land. Meanwhile, with the construction of the main seawall, which was built on the east side facing the Long Island Sound, it was built by placing boulders and large rocks in a mile-long crescent-shaped pile that created the curve of the beach. The wall itself is 25 feet wide at the floor of the bay and rises 21 feet to a point just above high tide. A smaller seawall was also constructed on the west side of the beach, which created a lagoon on the back bay behind Hunter Island. When it came to the actual construction and designs of the bathhouses and other structures at the beach, Robert Moses just gave his engineers and architects a general idea of what he wanted and told them to just make it happen any way they can. However, he did just have two conditions. One was that the facility should fit visually into the Pelham Bay landscape, and two, that the bathhouses should be built with colonnades or giant pillars. Hey, say what you want, but the guy knew he was building something that was gonna outlive an empire. Anyway, as long as the architects and engineers met these two conditions, any school of architecture and design was on the table. Judging by their construction, I think they went with Art Deco. Furthermore, this creative freedom is possibly why, when the bathhouses were finally built, they looked really similar in design to the Palace de Trocadero in Paris, France. Of course, none of this would have been built without the hard work of thousands of WPA workers. Every day, up to 4,000 workers were bussed out of Pelham Bay to work at Orchard Beach, and working 24 hours a day in 3 shifts. Crews were able to accomplish a remarkable artwork in just 3 months before Orchard Beach opened. In those 3 months, workers had roads paved, a temporary parking lot built, and up to 250,000 cubic yards of sand deposited on the beach. Anyway, how hard these guys worked really shows that they took a special pride in their work. I also like to think that maybe these guys look forward to the day when they could take their families to the beach and show them all their hard work. Anyway, Orchard Beach was officially opened on Saturday, July 25th, 1936. It was dedicated by Mayor LaGuardia, Robert Moses, and other city officials. And during the dedication, Mayor LaGuardia gave a speech emphasizing the importance the public works projects were in helping to end the Depression. He also stressed in his speech how these projects gave back to the community the way they did, like with the creation of Orchard Beach. Anyway, after a couple more pats on the back and acknowledgments from Robert Moses and other city officials, Bronx residents finally got to enjoy all that Orchard Beach had to offer. On its first day alone, up to 10,000 people attended the opening day ceremony, and later in the night, up to 15,000 people attended the fireworks display show. During that show, visitors were treated to 25 minutes of fireworks that culminated in a constant barrage that spelled out Orchard Beach in fiery letters. Anyway, I find this detail really cool because not only did Orchard Beach open up with a bang, it shows that its annual fireworks show dates back to its very first day. Anyway, when it was finally all built by 1938, Orchard Beach boasted a mile-long beach, a 50-foot mile-long promenade that ran parallel to the shore, and a massive 1,400-foot long, 200-foot-to-foot wide mall that led to the 19,000 square foot bathhouses